Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another mortgage coaching call every Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock Pacific. We're here to connect as a community. Here at Mortgage Coach, we are dedicated to both your personal and your professional success. We are dedicated to this mission of just helping every borrower make a confident mortgage decision with Mortgage Coach education. We do this by powering mortgage professionals with mobile technology that helps them deliver confident decisions. So I've got our special guest today, Felicia. She is the #1 loan officer in the state of Iowa, and we're going to be interviewing Felicia and really finding out what makes her great and what makes her so successful. Felicia, welcome to the call. And Felicia, you might have to unmute your phone if you have it on mute. So are you there? Welcome to the call.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Okay, no problem. So before I bring Felicia in and we start the interview, I do want to remind everybody that we launched the RateWatch app. If you have not downloaded that, I am going to do a poll question towards the end of the call. Please make sure you've downloaded the RateWatch app. You can either type in Mortgage Coach or RateWatch, one word, and get that downloaded and updated. I also want to remind everybody that I am going to be interviewing Mitch Kiter at 11 o'clock Pacific today. He is one of the nation's top attorneys in Washington, D.C., dealing directly with the CFPB. Whenever I'm, working with the company to roll out Mortgage Coach and then we're going through compliance review, no one's name comes up more often than Mitch Kiter. So we're going to be asking Mitch questions and figure out how to be more compliant mortgage professionals. So one more thing before I bring in Felicia, I want to bring in some great value in the teaching from former Navy SEAL Phil Black. This is Phil and myself at Sales Mastery a few weeks ago. So Phil, while I met you live at that Nike event, I don't know, seems like it's been a couple years now. I've interviewed you a couple times at a Mortgage Coach, but it was just really great getting to meet you and see you and watch you deliver an awesome keynote a couple weeks ago at Sales Mastery.
That was a great time, Dave.
Yeah, well, you delivered a lot of value. You were one of the best sessions of the entire 4-day event, and people were talking about you a lot. So
great.
I thought it would be great, while we're coming out of that Sales Mastery event, for you to deliver, 10 minutes of value to the Mortgage Coach community. I know you've got a vision on what you thought would be a great follow-up message. So I'll let you take it from here and drive some value as we kick off today's call.
Great. Yeah, you can probably go to the next slide. We'll see if there's a guy up there in a military uniform to kick it off. Thank you, Dave, for those kind words. I started out dreaming about being a guy just like this person on the screen that you see. And he's a Navy SEAL that I met 20 years ago. And I wanted everything that this guy had. I wanted this guy's hat and his scarf and his gloves and his uniform and his gun. I wanted it all. And back then, I had the good fortune of meeting him and spending a full day with him where we talked about all things Navy SEAL, the culture, the travel, the training, the lifestyle. And by the end of that day, I was completely hooked. Now, at the time, when you switch that slide, Dave, at the time, I didn't imagine or think for even a second that I could or would ever become a Navy SEAL. After all, that you could see me there at the time on the left. I was a 20-year-old college kid, not a great athlete, awkwardly tall. I'm about 6'7", no military background, and frankly, a pretty soft kid. But that didn't stop me from studying and reading and learning all that I could about the guys on the right, which were the Navy SEALs. And I had become a classic in-the-closet wannabe Navy SEAL. And eventually, there came a time in my life where I decided to go from a wannabe to a will-be. And it was 4 years after the time that I met this gentleman. And in my case, the time where I made this decision was hinged on me working on Wall Street. I was out of shape. I was overweight. I had recent surgery on my shoulder from a freak skiing accident. And I had basically hit rock bottom. And it took this significant emotional event, if you will, to see what I really wanted to do. And I always liked the acronym there, significant emotional event, which is SEE, allows you to see things that you normally wouldn't. Well, that I had an emotional event myself which spurred me on to probably the biggest success in my life, which we turn to the next one, the next slide, Dave. And it turned out that after reflecting on it and thinking about it for the last couple of years, I call this pattern, or the sequence of events that I went on this journey, call it a success pattern. And it's a series of steps that can be taken to help you become successful, whether at home, at work, on a sports team. Obviously, it doesn't have to apply only if you want to become a Navy SEAL. It can be, you can apply it in your life in various different formats. And you can see up there the pattern that it follows are these 4 steps. It's number 1, to dream; number 2, to decide; number 3, to prepare; number 4, to persevere. And I think importantly, and we'll touch on a little bit, but in my view, these steps have to be done in order. You can't really skip around. You can't start with number 2 and try to jump to number 4. And you have to spend significant time in each one of these steps and do the sequence. That's really where the power comes from, is the sequencing and the order of the pattern. So if we start with step number 1, you have to have a dream. I had that dream early days of wanting to be this Navy SEAL, and it took me a little bit of time to actually act on it. But without a dream, there's nothing really to shoot for. There's no goal. There's no target. There's nothing that will move you to action. So if you want to start, if you believe in this success pattern, you want to start without this dream, you're just treading water. You're not really getting out the door. And in most cases, the stronger and the more vivid the dream, the better off you're going to be. And as Walt Disney said, if you don't have a dream, there's no dream to come true. So step number 1, if you want to build a success pattern, is to have that dream. Step number 2 is to decide to pursue that dream. And as easy as it might sound, some people, when they think to themselves, well, I'll just decide to do it. But I think most of the people on this call hold themselves accountable to themselves and to other people. So it's not always that easy to decide to do something. A lot of times there are goals and dreams and aspirations that are floating around in our subconscious, but we never really intentionally decide to make them happen. There's a little bottleneck there, a little choke point, and at some point you have to decide to push it through that choke point and really go for that dream. And it's not a haphazard thing. It's not something that you just decide to do and then forget about it for a couple months. It's something that you take immediate action on, which leads us to step number 3, which is the preparation. It's the massive action steps that you take to make this dream come true. And this is what we'll talk a little bit more in depth about in a couple minutes. And just as an aside, the first 2 steps, the dreaming and deciding, are both mental. So there's not really a lot you have to do physically. You can sit back on the couch and dream something and decide to do it. But it's in step number 3 that not only do you have to mentally prepare yourself to do it, but you actually have to take action. You have to get off the couch and actually do things, which is why it's an exciting step for me. And then lastly, persevere, to not give up on this dream or this goal. And this is a tough one, and one that prevents a lot of people and a lot of dreams from coming true, because, man, there are a lot of events, a lot of things that can sidetrack you, including your environment, your challenges that come up, health challenges, work challenges, relocations, just life itself will throw a lot of challenges in your way of persevering. And there's also, not an explicit timeline when it comes to step number 4. You could be there for 8 days, 8 months, 8 years. You never really know. And that's sometimes why it's the undoing of some dreams, because people don't stay on that 4th step long enough. So I want to stay here and talk about preparation now. Dave, you can jump to the next slide. When I think of preparation, I break it into 3 different buckets. Number 1 is unconventional preparation, like we see here. Number 2 is physical preparation. Number 3 is mental preparation. So since we're on, why don't we go back to unconventional? I'm just going to talk to unconventional for a second, but thanks for running through those. So when I talk of unconventional preparation, I think about doing things that other people aren't doing things that differentiate yourself. This photo of this upside-down house is an example of unconventional design, and you can imagine walking by this house with your dog and looking at this house and it getting your attention, and you talking to other people about it or suggesting that visitors go and look at that place, because it's not like other things. So in your industry, I'm sure you've considered or hopefully currently doing things, whether it's marketing or networking or using some of the latest technology tools that Dave and Mortgage Coach have created that make you stand out from the crowd. Those are the types of things that happen during unconventional unconventional preparation. Now, in my case, I was starting my quest to become a Navy SEAL so far behind the 8 ball that I had to be unconventional in my approach to making this dream come true. And I had to do some crazy stuff to get to the end of the line there, where eventually, thankfully, I met success. Now, if we switch to the next slide, after unconventional preparation, there's physical preparation. Now, in the Navy SEAL world of training to become a SEAL, this is the blocking and tackling. This is the push-ups, the sit-ups, the swims, the rope climbs, those things that have to be done on a daily basis with consistency and energy, all the behind-the-scenes type of work. And I think similarly in the mortgage world, it may be things like preparing for meetings, preparing collateral, marketing materials, getting up to speed on new regulations, basically the everyday admin duties that you have to do every day to be at your best. They're the must-haves. And then lastly, the mental preparation. And the SEAL teams, the big statistic is that 80% of the trainees don't make it through training. And that's a pretty severe drop-off, a pretty severe attrition, as we call it. And even after you could create a control group of SEAL candidates who are all equally in unbelievable shape, 80% of them still don't make it. So people are always wondering what this X factor is that helps the 20% get through. And I believe that it's the mental toughness. It's the people who gut it out and the people who persevere. And I think that similarly in the mortgage world, it's the people who are going to handle rejection the best. People are going to handle poor market conditions the best. People are going to handle the barrage of new regulations the best. And there are plenty of people out there in the mortgage world and otherwise that are killer salespeople or have incredible networks, but they may not ultimately succeed because they lack that last step, that perseverance step to make it through the tough times. So to try to wrap this up, we've talked about what I consider this success pattern, this series of steps that when you go through in order and in sequence, and you make sure you finish 1 before you get to 2 and finish 3 before you get to 4, and make sure you stick it out with number 4 in every aspect of your life, and you close that gap or you close that loop and complete the pattern, that's where I see the success pattern coming from. And what's nice about it is when you do it in one part of your life and you have success, you can then replicate and duplicate that over and over and over again and have these mini success patterns strewn throughout your life. So I hope that those were my comments, Dave. I hope that that makes sense for people, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or have any feedback.
All right. So Phil, as always, great value, just a great framework of excellence. Folks, if you've not heard my past interviews with Phil Black, I mean, we're talking to a guy who's a Yale graduate, a Harvard graduate, a Navy SEAL trainer, has been on the Shark Tank, made it to the Shark Tank, was on the Shark Tank, and has had his first successful exit of an entrepreneurial company that he invented, FitDeck. So we've got a guy here who's always dreaming. Obviously, when you make a decision and you put your mind to something, you've got a track record of getting it done. And in my, going on 2 years relationship with Phil Black, his preparation is just unparalleled. So I guess as we transition to Felicia, I want everybody on the call to just think to yourself from a preparation standpoint, what are you doing from a non-conventional preparation? And by the way, if you're on this call and you're listening to that, you're just kind of going, what's that? I don't even know what that means. It could be LinkedIn. Are you, and again, that's not so non-conventional anymore. That's kind of, to me, almost irresponsible selling in today's world if you're going to meet someone new and you haven't done a little research online. One, if there's nothing, then you learn something. They're completely, they're not online. They don't have a LinkedIn profile. I learned something about that person. And if they are, you learn something. But what are you doing from an unconventional standpoint? I do think being an expert at mortgage coach, it is a unique differentiator. Let's face it, the majority of loan officers in America are not delivering a total cost analysis to home buyers. So from an industry perspective, delivering a TCA is unconventional preparation for meetings, especially if you're going to go meet with a realtor and you go with, I know this person specializes in first-time home buyers, so I'm going to have a rent versus own ready to go before that meeting. I know that they're in a government market and FHA is really popular, Or let's say I know that they do a lot of business with jumbos and affluent folks. So whatever you're going to meet, what kind of preparation have you done so that when you go there, you wow them? I don't know, scale of 1 to 10, where do you rate? From a physical preparation, I mean, this can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. It could just mean the skills necessary to drive your sales process. And it could mean, are you healthy enough to have an X factor energy to bring value to every conversation that you have? You know, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but whatever it means to you, where do you rank on a scale of 1 to 10? And last and certainly not least, because I think it all starts with mental preparation, you know, the best of the best are just fired up, and everybody they touch, they fire up. So I don't know what you need to do to get there, to stay there. I know I'm turning 50 this year, so some of the energy and X factor that I've had most of my life is no longer something that I can take for granted. I mean, I literally need to work harder to be what I was when I was in my 30s and 40s. But you know what? I think age is a matter of mindset, and I still think I bring more A game than most 20 and 30-year-olds. But it's something I have to do more intentionally now. So first of all, Felicia, before we bring you in officially to the interview, any questions or comments around the Phil Black session so far?
No, he's a phenomenal story.
Yeah, no doubt. And Phil, really appreciate you jumping on this call, adding some value. I'm looking forward to having you be the showcase the guest sometime soon. And I do know you have to jump at some point here, but if you want to add any value to my conversation with Felicia, feel free to jump in. Any last thoughts, Phil, before we roll on?
No, but thank you for having me, and I wish I could stay on a little bit longer because Felicia sounds like she has some great stuff going on too. I'll probably be in the background for a few minutes. I may have to jump to another one, but thank you again for having me on. I look forward to coming back.
Right on, man. Well, you certainly will, and I can't wait for it. So let's transition to an interview with an industry superstar. Felicia, I met at an event earlier this year, and her X factor and her energy was just contagious. At the time I first met her, I think she had Mortgage Coach, but wasn't using it on a regular basis. And so we put out this interview sometime for her to get her legs under her as an official mortgage coach. She is the #1 loan officer in the state of Iowa, so does a significant amount of business. Her sales manager is just a fantastic industry leader. Just couldn't say enough great things about her. So Felicia, if you wouldn't mind coming in, give us a little bit about your backstory, tell us a little bit about your mortgage practice, and let's have a bit of a site visit online with you.
Yeah, so I started in 2001, and so I've seen, been a broker, been through the banks, started with HFC. I don't know if anybody remembers them. So it's kind of my background. I've been at my current space, or at the University of Iowa Credit Union for the last 7 years. And actually, about 4 years ago, I tried something different. So I actually jumped out of the industry for about a year and then came back. So.
Got it. And how much, just to give everybody an idea of how many loans you closed, the kind of volume of your mortgage practice?
Yeah, we close about 40 to 45 loans a month, and our volume last year was about 74, 75 million.
Wow. So a lot of business, mostly purchase business, I assume?
A majority. Last year is a lot different than this year. Last year is probably about 50% purchase. This year, obviously, the numbers are a lot higher on the purchase side since we've had to kind of reinvent our businesses here.
Got it. And then from a team perspective, obviously you're not doing all this on your own. If you could just tell us, what kind of team you have around us.
Yeah, so actually it's just 3 of us, Kyle, Colin, and then myself. And Kyle and Colin are actually my processors, so I pretty much do everything from the front line, but they are just there to essentially process my loan and do the closing packages too. So it's just the 3 of us.
Got it. So from a production standpoint, you're building all the referral relationships with local referral partners and realtors. Are you taking the 1003, or when do you make the handoff to your production partners?
Yeah, so what I do is I actually I meet with the realtors, I also meet with the clients, do all my own disclosures, order appraisals, and then at that point, once we have an offer or, have an appraisal order, then I move the file over to Kyle or Colin, depending on.
Got it. So you are taking the 1003 with all of your clients?
Yes. Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. And then, like I said, when I first met you, I can't remember if you were using it or you were just like, I know I need to use it. I know you are using it now. What are, I know we have something you sent me prior to the call, kind of your words around it. Don't read this out loud, but what is it about Mortgage Coach now that you've adopted it and added it to your workflow?
Well, the biggest thing for me is I always want to be different than the next person that they go to, and our market's really, really competitive. So, when they get an analysis here, they're never going to get it down the street from us. So it just sets me apart as a expert, which a lot of people here in our community can't say that. The other thing is we have a big company here called Rockwell, and they have a lot of engineers that we get from as far as clients go. So they love, with a typical engineer, they're going to love the grass. They love the grass. They love the numbers. It just really gives them a great way of, just looking at the numbers and making sure that it's the right decision for them.
Good. Well, we'll get into a couple success stories around Mortgage Coach reports that you provided. I know you sent me a couple of those before the call. We'll do that towards the tail end of our interview. So, you and I had a prep call. One of my goals whenever I interview someone like yourself that's just super successful is, it's unpacking what makes you special, what makes you good. And I know because we talked that, part of it is just how you do life with your partners. But part of it is just, I think you said it, and everybody knows the kind of volume you're doing. And when they heard you say, I'm super competitive, I think they know what that means. But I know you're getting ready to deliver some leadership on what makes a great salesperson to a group of realtors tomorrow. 50 realtors are going to be giving a presentation. So let's just walk through those slides and then have a conversation around it. By the way, everybody, I am going to be looking at the control panel. So if you do have some questions for Felicia, I will keep an eye out, and I'll try to bring those into my conversation. I want to make this as organic as possible. So as I roll through this with Felicia, if you have a question, if you have a comment, go ahead and put it in the questions area of the GoToMeeting control panel. So Felicia, why don't you frame this presentation that you're giving tomorrow? By the way, is this a presentation you've given before, or is this something you put together and this is now the first time you're doing it?
No, this is the first time I'm doing it. So we actually have a marketing agreement with a company here in town. And the nice thing is every 3 weeks you have the option of going in front of everybody and just talking or giving them great ideas. So usually, everybody always likes to go up there and give their spiels about products and so really what I'm trying to do is make myself different and go in front of the 50 agents, usually between 50 and 100 agents at this meeting, and just make myself different or tell people why I'm different. And so a lot of times I'll bring just a value add to them. Their broker loves it. He always is, having me, make sure that everybody has it, getting a copy of the slides, and he just loves it. So this last time I actually used one of the slides I got at Mortgage Coach regarding how an agent, what the agent actually does. So it's like 250 things that the agent actually does for the client on the selling side, the buying side, and it just is a value add so they know exactly, when they're meeting with a client, they can say, here's what I do for you, and it's very specific. So this time around, I Googled a bunch of salespeople, and I'm just like, well, how are these 10, when you're looking at the 10 greatest salespeople, how are they different than what I'm doing, or how can I incorporate what we've learned from them into my business? And so that's kind of what I did. I just, went through each person and kind of took what I thought was important and then put it in a PowerPoint presentation for my realtors.
All right. And then how long is this presentation going to be? Like, how long do you have to talk and walk through this?
Well, actually, so this morning I actually presented already. So it actually was a 25-minute presentation.
Okay. Well, let's walk through some of the slides. You've got, let's put context around, again, everybody. This is Felicia a top loan officer at a sales meeting, 50 realtors, and she is providing leadership around how they can be more successful. So you've got, why don't you don't have to like just go through this presentation like you did, but let's walk through and let's bring this content to the Mortgage Coach community.
Yeah, so I want to tie it. So what I did is I just did 5 easy steps. So I put passion, friendship, consistency, expertise, and then investment. And if you look at if you move forward on the slides, I put myself in there and also just put a quote in there. But I also can kind of put myself in with these great people. So then when I'm going to the sales meeting, not only do they forget I'm there as an expert, but I'm also there as a salesperson, and it just kind of ties it together. So that's why I put my picture on the second slide there, just to kind of talk about, why. So they in turn think of me too, which is the goal. Obviously, it's not just to go up there and, not get any business from this chat, So again, going through, I went to passion and talked about passion and how, that's the biggest thing I feel like is if you're not passionate about your business, you're not going to grow your business. And so you have to make sure you're passionate. And that's kind of when I went back to them and said, does it come naturally? Is this something you love to do? Because if you don't love to do it, you shouldn't be doing it. Because people can feel that passion. And then also I just talked about, how passion positions you as a leader. If you're passionate about your business, people will see you as a leader. So I just, I kind of just talked about these things. The other thing I really emphasized on, if you're passionate, people will want to do something. So kind of talked about, the ads at 2 in the morning, how many people have bought a product that they didn't think they really needed, but they acted because the people on TV were so passionate about what they were selling. So, they ended up calling the 800 number and ordering it. Just going back to how passion can instill, make people act, but also, again, it makes you, brings you in as a leader. So, and then the second thing, are you still there? Hello?
Oh, no, I just, no problem. Continue to roll.
Okay, yeah, the second thing I talked about, and this is probably where I'm different than most people, is the friendship level. And the friendship level is, okay, so in Tony Robbins, I don't know if anybody has seen Tony Robbins, but what an incredible speaker he is. But it goes back to, when people are like each other, they tend to like each other. They tend to like each other, and then they're going to buy from you. So, and I kind of incorporated this into my slide because a lot of people just forget that you have to be friends with the people you're doing business with. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, if you hate realtors, you probably shouldn't be in this business, and you have to remember that when you're going out and selling these people because they want to do business with people that are like them. And so, I've taken a lot of my top 20, 30 agents, and they're friends of our families. I mean, our kids go to school together. They come to our birthday parties. They, if we're going to go out to dinner, we call some of these people. I mean, not all of them you want to spend you're not going to want to spend your whole entire weekend with, but at the same time, you're going to want to think about how can I make this person that I'm trying to get business with, how can I apply it to my personal life? And that's really where I think I kind of shine versus the blender down the street. People forget that you want these people to be as incorporated as you possibly can in your life. And it takes lots of small efforts, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. You just have to remember that. Just like a sale, sometimes you're going to have people who say no, and there's going to be some people who say yes, but it does take a lot of small efforts. I'll kind of give you a great example. So a couple of weeks ago, I had one of my realtors, and she just had an awful awful week in real estate, just awful. And so she posted this picture of her drinking wine at the end of the week. So my team sent a bottle of wine to her to replace her bottle of wine she had already drank the week prior, and just wished her a better week. And you just have to think about things like that. If you can make yourself unique, but also incorporate these people into your lives, they're not going to do business with other people.
Right on. So I want to go back to passion, and then I want to break down friendship a little bit, at least as it is part of your success criteria. So I guess when we get to passion, everybody on this call, just on a scale of 1 to 10, how passionate are you about this business? How passionate are you about relationships with realtors. Obviously, if you're not giving yourself high marks, you got to get there. You've got to, this is why I'm so passionate about what is your why. Every time I talk to a passionate loan officer who's a mortgage coach, they've got a really well thought out why, and it's something they were intentional about, and it's something that they work on. Now, it is true, I think some people have an easier, this just comes more naturally than others, and other people have to work at it more. But at the end of the day, you want to maximize your success in the hours that you put in at work. You've got to get here. So I give everybody just a self-reflection, rate yourself, and then if you're not where you need to be, work on your why. Why are you doing this, and why are you working with realtors or whoever your referral partners are? So on the friendship piece, I do know super successful loan officers that are not necessarily friends with all their clients. So this is part of what makes Felicia special, and this is part of her value proposition. I mean, there are other loan officers that, you cannot not be likable and still be successful. I mean, every time I've ever interviewed a top loan officer, they're likable at a certain level. They deliver value at a certain level. They don't always do friends, do friendship with their realtors. So Felicia, just to, get a little more clear, and if anybody has a question on this, put it in the go-to-meeting panel. But, are you like out of I don't know, I don't want to, what percentage of your personal time is integrated with a business friend? Is it literally you're doing life 90% with them? But just give us an idea of how full your time is where you've got personal time and it's incorporated with business social.
It's usually, I would say it's probably 80 to 90%.
So your best friends and all of your friends are in the business, and you've done that in a very intentional way.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So again, folks on this call, it may not be right for everyone, but you cannot deny Felicia's formula for success, and it's working well for her. Anything else before we move on to the consistency piece, Felicia?
I don't think so.
Okay. So let's talk about consistency and what that means to you and how that's part of your success and the type of leadership that you're bringing to your realtors.
So when I was going through the consistency piece, the biggest thing I was trying to display to the realtors, and just from my standpoint, is sometimes you have to remember, again, with the friendship piece or even just the sales piece, it always takes a lot of small efforts. You're not just going to make one phone call and get the top realtor to sit down with you and have lunch with you. That never happens. So you just have to make sure that you're just consistently making small efforts. Then that's when I kind of went into the rule of 3. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but you have to remember sometimes it takes 3 touches. That's usually the magic number before you're going to get somebody's attention. So when you remember that, then you get turned down a couple of times. It's not so big of a deal. Obviously nobody wants to get rejected, but at the same time, you have to remember it takes 3 times for somebody to listen, and if you can catch them on the 3rd time, sometimes you can usually get the sale. So and then 3 is know and communicate your process. So with my buyers, my process is always the same every time. It's to go through the application, get their information, and then go through and talk about this is the process as far as how we do things, secondary versus our in-house loans, go through our fees, and then actually present mortgage coach to them at the end. Here's a great piece. This is kind of what the numbers are, going from $100,000 to $150,000 purchase price on a home, and just providing that last-minute touch and giving them, the great thing about mortgage coach is it has your face on there. It's very personalized, and that's like the last piece I usually leave them with, and I highlight all the important sections on there and then hand that to them. And every time when I go through that sales process, it's exactly the same. There's no deviating from it, because the thing is it works so well, I'm not going to change it. And if an objection goes up we're going to handle that objection at the meeting. But then I know exactly what I've said to each client, and it's working. So the 4th piece is know your numbers, and just going from you need to know how many cold calls you need to make in order to have a certain amount of closing percentage. And I think as a loan officer, you need to just sit down and analyze that. So if you know, you have to make 20 sales calls and you're only going to close one person, you need to make 20 sales calls so you can close that one person. Because if you don't do anything, nothing's going to happen. And then the fifth thing, again, is going back to executing. You just have to execute. If you can't execute, you're not going to, again, you're just going to sit stagnant wondering why your numbers aren't changing.
So this is you providing this leadership to realtors. So I can only imagine, this really positions you as a leader delivering this advice. I talk to a lot of loan officers that close less than 5 loans a month, and they may be mortgage coaches, but they're not doing it with every client. And so often I hear, I just don't have time. Obviously, you're closing 40 loans a month, and you have time to deliver your best practice presentation. But what kind of leadership do you give to loan officers that are struggling, but yet they're not putting their best foot forward with each and every client? What's the coaching that you give to loan officers that just are not at your level of success to get there?
You mean, from a loan officer standpoint or from a realtor standpoint?
No, from a loan officer standpoint.
Okay. So I don't actually manage loan officers, but if I were to give somebody advice, it is, me and Amy's had this conversation, is you need to get out and talk to people. If you've seen my calendar over the last 2 months, like literally every lunch, I have a lunch appointment booked with a realtor almost every day. And that would be my biggest thing. It's got to start somewhere. So go out and start meeting with people. Talk to your financial advisors. They're a great resource that nobody even talks to. I don't know if anybody works with financial advisors, but they are phenomenal to work with. They're easy. If you're the only lender, there's not a lot of competition. So, that's a great way to start. If you're just nervous, call your financial advisor. Is he sending you business? And just start somewhere. You have to. I'm lucky. I'm in a credit union, so I have other people around me too. So I've got a group of personal bankers, and there are 2 new guys that we hired a couple of months ago. And so they're almost done through training, but I took them out to lunch last week and just had a conversation about how I can impact their business and what they can do for me.
So you're always meeting with people, and you're always creating value with people, and that's it's pretty clear, it's pretty obvious. So let's hit these next 2 bullet points: expertise and investment.
Yeah. So expertise, it goes just to knowing your client. So great example: if you've got somebody moving to town, you should Google them, see what they do, see where they work. You just have to find more information out about these people. And that's kind of what I was telling the realtors too, is you need to know where these people are coming from, what their background is, because it's going to give you an edge that the next realtor won't have. So that's one of the things. Also listen. I think that's a big thing. When I'm in a meeting, I don't talk a lot. Really. I go through numbers. I am the leader in the conversation when it comes to going through the product, but I actually sit there and I listen. Sometimes you feel like a psychologist, but you just have to remember you have to listen. You want to listen to these people, what they want, and sometimes we just forget to do that as a lender. Some people have really big personalities, and if you just back it off a little bit and just listen, you could do wonders for your business. The other thing is, sorry.
I'm sorry. Some people have really big personalities, and you just need to back it off, and you just need to listen. And I just thought that was a fantastic quote that I think, one, we know someone we need to say that to, and we should also be saying that to ourselves a lot more often than we do. I thought that was great advice. I want to put a little bracket around that. It was solid.
The other one that I think is really important is know your employers. So, you have to know your employers, know their background stories, because sometimes it's hard to get people to open up. And if you can, in one of the questions we ask on our application, where do you work at? And it's a great way of opening that door into a conversation when especially somebody's very, very quiet, or they don't say a lot. So if you know your clients, where your clients are working at, it just creates another conversation piece. Knowing the neighborhood, know the taxes, school districts. Obviously, we can't make comments about school districts, but just know, where the school districts are at, where the schools are at, because it just gives you, again, an edge. And then know the culture. I mean, and you can kind of feel. I mean, if you're a good enough salesperson, you're going to know what that person is like. So you kind of have to kind of conform to your client. So for example, I had a client who's very quiet. He was super quiet. I mean, this guy is like trying to get him to actually have a talk. It was very, very hard. So sometimes, like, in that case, I just make it so it's a very quiet conversation. I mean, we don't say a lot. I mean, it's not awkward, but it's okay, because he's obviously not that personality where he's going to want you to overwhelm him with just your personality. So it just kind of was quiet, and we just kind of walked through the numbers, let him look at his stuff. He's a very, very particular engineer, and just took his time walking through the documents. And then just know the activities. Just know, like, I'll give you a great example. So if you have a stay-at-home mom that's moving to town and the husband has this great job he just got as an executive at a company, you have to be, kind of on the forefront and doing something different. So with this person, you'd want to know, like, what other things in the area could they get involved in, especially a stay-at-home mom. That's kind of what I was trying to relate to my realtors is if you know your area well enough, you can give this mom advice on what she could do, and that would, again, create an edge over somebody who may not have any suggestions.
So a couple things. First of all, I love how often you use the word edge.
Sorry.
No, don't say sorry. Keep it rolling, Felicia. I love it. So I just had a nice shout-out from Coach Michael Reagan with Building Champions in chat. And, I mean, there's no question you've got a really powerful vision for your business. I have two questions. One, do you have that in writing anywhere? It's obviously clear in your head, but do you have it in writing? And two, how do you communicate that to your team? What kind of meeting rhythms do you have, and how do you communicate your vision for your business?
So as far as my team goes, with my team of realtors or with my team of
your team of backs you up in your practice. So do you have your vision? What kind of documentation do you have around your plan and your vision and your goals for yourself, and how do you communicate that to your production team?
Yeah, so we meet once a week and just go through our current clients, what we're trying to accomplish, and we literally sit down once a week and just have a conversation. So again, you have to remember, I don't have an assistant yet, but we're trying to get somebody hired for my team eventually. But right now, with not having an assistant, it's very, very important that I sit down with them and just talk about, the clients moving forward. With the processing side, it's a little bit more difficult to portray that, but I know that honestly, those guys that work on my team, they bend over and they work their tail off, and we talk about it. I mean, we have conversations. They know that I'm out meeting with the realtors and that how important it is once we do get that client in here to take good care of them. And so we talk about it. We meet once a week, like I said, and just have that conversation. It's not, I think my energy is enough sometimes where I don't have to sit down and say, here is what we're, here's what we're going to do. They know we want to be number one. There's no doubt about it with my team. I mean, so they know that, and I just have to be the leader and keep moving them forward in that thought process.
Got it. So your vision is, again, you said it earlier, highly competitive. We need to be number one, and you drive that with every conversation, and you have weekly meetings with your teams. So
yeah.
So let's talk about investment, and then let's get to a couple mortgage coach success stories, and let's talk a little bit about how you do life with friends.
Okay. So and the investment piece is really important. So there's four things that you have to remember when you're investing. The big thing for me sometimes is time, because I don't have a lot of time. I mean, I work really hard. I work a lot of hours. Last year, my husband was actually living in another state for 7 months, and I've got 3 kiddos. I've got a 1, 2, and an 8-year-old. So time is so important to me. So when I'm looking at my investment of my time, I really want to make sure I'm focusing on the right people, and not just wasting my time, if that makes sense. I know we've all kind of been there, but there's some realtors that will waste your time. They'll call And I mean, I call them back. I do have a conversation with them. There's some people that, you know, they always do that. And sometimes you just need to set boundaries with those people because they'll keep cutting into your time. So I think that's one of the big things too is you have to remember that you want to work with people who aren't wasting your time, you know. And also when you're giving back, like this is a big thing I talked with the realtors about this morning, is time from a community service standpoint. I mean, sometimes we forget that our community does so much for us as a lender. I mean, they really, like, at the credit union, I mean, we give back a lot of time too. So I like volunteer at junior achievement. I teach five classes, which is, I mean, it's a time-consuming thing, but I'm giving back to my community. I go to charity functions, you know, those types of things. So just remember that people are doing so much for us, and sometimes we need to do it back for our community too. From a marketing standpoint, again, this is the big thing I talked to them about, is you should be taking a certain amount of your income and putting it aside for marketing dollars. You know, if that's 10% or 5%, whatever it may be, you should really be reinvesting in you and in your marketing, because that's what that's going to do, is it's going to keep feeding that bucket that we need to keep replenishing every month, you know, as far as sales go. So you have to remember that you need to, you know, keep reinvesting in the marketing dollars so that you can go out and, you know, and get some more sales. And that's, you know, from a mortgage coach standpoint, if that's mortgage coach, you should, I mean, it's a great way to differentiate yourself, but that's another way of, again, spending those marketing dollars to make sure that you're getting more business moving forward too.
Well, I want to jump in on marketing. You know, that reminded me of when I interviewed the #1 realtor in America, Ken DeLeon, and while there were a lot of takeaways that were, you know, were keys to his success, one of the biggest, and every time I've interviewed him, he's focused on it, is he just plain old outspends everybody in his market. You know, the market is spending, I can't remember what it was, 6%, and he spends 20. I mean, it was a double to 3x out invest in marketing. And, you know, this guy's the #1 realtor in America. When he was with Keller Williams, he was the #1 Keller Williams agent. And investing in marketing was a hallmark to his success. So one, if you're on this call and you haven't heard me interview Ken DeLeon, which I've interviewed a few times, make sure you go back and listen to that, because I just think that is a hallmark of success. Obviously, everybody, you're on this call, so you've invested, or your company has invested in Mortgage Coach. But I think everybody should just take inventory. Where are you at? And on a scale of 1 to 10, do you have the appropriate investment that aligns with your strategy? I have a lot of people that I talk to, they've got a strategy, and they're not executing around it. So anyways, continue, Felicia, but I thought that was a big one that I wanted to shout out to.
Yeah. The other one that I was talking about, and this is a little bit more unique, is invest in loss. So I don't know if you guys know who Josh Waitzkin is, but he is a Bobby Fischer. The movie Bobby Fischer came out. He is that guy. So anyways, one of his big pushes is sometimes you're going to make mistakes. You know, you're going to play the wrong move, or, you know, and we all have been there. I mean, I've been there. I think everybody's been there, especially if they've been in the business a long time. So you have to, and this is not something that you want to do necessarily, but sometimes it's going to happen. You're going to invest in loss. Like, you're going to have some things that just don't work. But I think that the thing that I have to remember from him is if you don't try something, nothing's going to happen. Again, movement, you know, you want that movement, and you need to do something. So again, invest in loss. I mean, if you ever get a chance, this guy's got a phenomenal story. He's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's like a 5-time like chess master. But he's got a great backstory, and he advises a lot of really influential people. But you should definitely take a time and read his book or read some of his stuff. And then the fourth thing, and a lot of times people just forget to invest in themselves. So, you know, if that's going to like a Tony Robbins seminar and learning more about yourself, or, you know, going to mortgage seminars, or, you know, for them, I was talking about, we had this huge convention in town last week. I mean, all the realtors from across the state were here, or they should have been here if they weren't. And that's kind of what I sat down and talked to these guys about. I'm like, were you there? what have you done to invest in yourself? If that's taking time and reading a book, and that's going to make you better, then you should be doing that. And I think some people they're doing everything else, but they forget that they have to take time and invest in themselves too. Or if that's, I know Jeremy Forcier is running now, if taking 20 minutes out of your day and running, that's what you should be doing. And we sometimes forget to do that as loan officers, and you really need to just remember that you need to take care of yourself too.
Beautiful. So Felicia, you're a great leader in our industry. You've delivered a lot of value. I mean, I love these pictures that you sent me of you doing life with your friends, with your referral partners, integrating them into what you do as a family. I mean, these pictures that you sent me, you got your daughter. Where was this, by the way, this picture with you and your daughter?
So, yeah, we drove last Friday. We drove to Appreciation Night. One of my realtors invited us to come to a vineyard. And so I grabbed my daughter, and it was a Friday on the 19th. It was a super busy day. We had 8 closings, but I picked her up at 4, drove out 2 hours, and then drove back that same night. But we went out and just met with just shook some hands, and we're there. And I think, just trying to be present, because that realtor really appreciated the fact that we showed up, and her daughter is the same age as my daughter. So it's kind of like, again, the people that you're investing in are family, and they have families, and people want to invest with people that are like them. So the fact that she's sending all these referrals now, or she always has sent referrals, but I think it kind of just solidifies the relationship.
Well, again, it's just great to hear your story. It's great to hear how you're successful. I know you also said that you got your husband involved. So, it's a family affair, man. And this is part of your story and part of why you're successful. So let's bring it down into mortgage coach land. What you and your team do. Average loan officers are delivering fee worksheets. Mortgage coach loan officers are delivering mortgage experiences. They're sending the link so that if it's opened on a mobile device, it's mobile. Obviously, what I have on the screen right now is pulling one up, and it's a desktop view of a scenario. Why don't you, just walk us through what we're looking at, share this. Let's go through a couple mortgage coach scenarios just so people learn with how you frame a report, what you describe, and how you roll. So what are we looking at here?
So this is actually a presentation I did for a realtor. So they were looking at purchasing a home at $599, and I'm just giving them a couple different scenarios because she really wanted to be able to present this to her client as far as payments and what their options are. And so I just presented a couple different options, but again, not everybody's doing this, and this realtor honestly has never used me before they sent this presentation to her. So I had lunch with her. She asked me about a client. I sent this presentation to her, and now she exclusively uses me. This has happened over the last 3 months. And so I just was going through, doing a no money down, 5% down, and then a 10% down product. And so she just loved it. I mean, she saw it, it's easy to read, and so she gave it to her client. And so we're working with the client to get her home sold, but at the same time, it's just an edge that nobody else is giving her.
And how many transactions do you think you might get from this agent just to get a feel for the kind of, opportunity
we've already closed 3 deals with her.
And do you think she has the potential to be 20 deals a year type of agent?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yes. And big deals, too. She's a member at the country club, and she's got a lot of very, very influential people she hangs out with.
So mortgage coaches, I hope that this resonated. Felicia has this as part of her value proposition. When she's meeting with agents, it's how she educates. It's how she does business. It's part of her modus operandi. And again, I love how much she used the word edge. It just makes sense that you would integrate this into your conversation. I personally don't think there's too many meetings with an agent that you have for the first time where you wouldn't want to drive the conversation to make yourself a hero, where you're delivering them mortgage options on something that's valuable to them. By the way, how often are you providing edge reports, not just to borrowers, but it's at the request of a realtor, or it's to help support a realtor with a transaction? Is that something that happens often?
It happens once you show it to them, it happens more often than not. Like the next presentation I did was actually for another client. And I work with a lot of clients that might live like 2 hours away. And so it's really, again, giving me something different that nobody else is providing them in their community. And so this client lives, 2 hours away. They live in Des Moines, which is our capital. And so last night, the realtor actually called me. She's like, hey, can you do one of those analysis and send it over with the 195 with no money down with the 5.5 arm? And so we sent this over, and she just loves it, And they know once you kind of expose them to it, you have to remember they expect it. So it's a great tool, though, because it literally took me like, a minute. Went in, just add the 195, resent the link over. And, the other great thing about mortgage coaches, when they're viewing those. So if you're sending them by email, you know that they're looking at them. They click on them. It's a great way of following up with your clients and just saying, hey, I know you looked at Mortgage Coach. I just want to make sure, or with my presentation, is there anything that I can, or is there any questions you might have? It's a great way of just kind of calling them and just touching base with them. And having that conversation and opening that conversation again to see how quickly or if there's anything you can do to help them kind of move the process along.
So help me understand. Obviously, you're using these. They're helping you get more referrals from realtors. They're installing more confidence. And obviously, home buyers like it because it makes, the information more clear, more valuable. When you show this to a realtor, how do you frame that? How are you describing it so that it gets their attention? If you wouldn't mind just giving us a minute on that, just so we kind of understand your scripting and your talking points.
So what I talk about, so I always like to sit down with them in person and just have a conversation about how I do business. And so one of the things I talk to them about is just getting a name and the phone number. But I also talk to the realtor. I'm like, you know what? And I bring, the sheet along and say, here's what I can provide to your clients that no other banker is doing, in the area. And just talking through them. And then what I do is I say, don't you think this would help your clients and also help you when you're out looking so that they if they're within like a payment, if they're within a certain amount of payment, that it's going to save you time if you go and show them a house that's, $10,000 more than what they expected. So it kind of puts more of the, realtors like to have control. So it puts that into their control, which is always a good thing, especially from a realtor, is a good thing from their standpoint. So we just have a conversation about that. And then once we start doing pre-approvals, I just send the link along with the pre-approval, So here's what we talked about. Here's a copy of the link that we chatted about and what they're looking at. And then I just send, here's their goal or here's what is ideal for them, but here's some other options that they might have as well.
Got it. So folks, when you're meeting with realtors, you could do everything from pull it up on a mobile device. As you heard from Felicia, she has it in writing. She's showing it. She's saying, this is how I do business. I am a mortgage coach, and the way I deliver value is different. I want to remind everybody that not only can you do this with the borrower conversation, but you can deliver modern mobile experiences for open houses. So an average loan officer is providing printed paper, which, has some compliance issues all in itself that you need to manage. With Mortgage Coach, you can just send a link to the realtor and teach them and train them how to open that up on their own mobile device and have it on display at the open house. So as we wrap up today's call, I want to remind everybody, if you don't have the Mortgage Coach mobile app on your mobile device, get it. Just put in Mortgage Coach. It's a free app, Android and iOS. And now we have a new app, Rate Watch. So you've always got interest rates in your back pocket. As I close the call, I am going to do a poll in a minute here on have you downloaded it yet? I want to know what percentage of you have. But I just want to make sure that you're driving it, guys. Click on the home page. Get used to having this. It's a new tool for you to differentiate. Or as Felicia put it, it gives you an edge, that you've got interest rates in the back pocket. And you'll notice that when rates are going up, it's red. When rates are going down, it's green, and it moves. And by the way, Felicia, best of all, you made a shout out for our alerts. Now those alerts will come through your phone. So whether you have an Android or an iOS, you'll get an in-app alert, and you can just click and make a phone call. So talk about speed to lead. Talk about you helping realtors get better conversion rates. Make sure you're doing this with each and every other client. And now you've got a new companion to have the ultimate open house and drive conversations and drive leads where you've got the mortgage coach mortgage options, and if you want you've got interest rates. So guys, every Tuesday we're doing calls like this where it's about ideas, it's about what top producers are doing. Thursday we're getting into the details and the weeds of how to be successful, and Fridays are all about helping beginners. So an hour from now, I'm going to be interviewing Mitch Kiter with our president, Joe Couture, talking about how to turn compliance into a competitive advantage. I do believe in today's landscape, it's something we need to embrace in the trenches. It's not just the CEO's problem. It's not just your sales manager's problem. It's an opportunity for all of us. So this call is being recorded just like all of our calls. It will be available on our YouTube page within an hour. And I want to remind you can watch it from your mobile device. So here's a great mortgage coach leader, Sean Perro with RPM Mortgage, and he's watching it on his mobile device. So just because you had a meeting and a conflict doesn't mean that you can't watch the weekly calls that we do. So Felicia, as we wrap up, thank you for taking time to prepare. Thank you for sharing your passion from the heart. Any last thoughts you want to share as we wrap up today's call?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. And again, connect with us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and make sure you've downloaded all the Mortgage Coach apps and you're getting the maximum value. So I'm going to pull this last poll question. Have you downloaded RateWatch as we close the call? Let me know as you're exiting today's call. Has it been downloaded? And by the way, it's looking good. It looks like about 70% of you are saying yes. So you 34% that are saying no, come on, let's get the app downloaded. It's available to all mortgage coaches. Just download it, RateWatch in your mobile store, put in your mortgage coach username and password, and boom, you've got the interest rates in your back pocket. Hey, Felicia, take care and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dave.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.